Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that the mighty Roman Empire is not the shining civilization described in history books. Forget the marble temples, victorious legions, and wealthy senators wrapped in expensive fabrics. Tonight, we leave the crowded streets of Rome behind and travel to a place most citizens hoped they would never see. Far beneath the earth, hidden inside mountains and deep valleys across the empire, there exists another world. A world without sunlight. A world where the air is thick with dust, where darkness stretches endlessly through narrow tunnels, and where every sound echoes through stone corridors carved by generations of exhausted workers. It is here that much of Rome's wealth is born. The silver coins passing through marketplaces, the gold decorating imperial palaces, the iron used to forge weapons and tools. All of it begins underground. Yet the people responsible for uncovering these treasures are rarely remembered. History celebrates emperors who spent the money and generals who used it to conquer nations. Few remember the miners who sacrificed their health, freedom, and often their lives to bring that wealth to the surface. Tonight, you are one of them. Long before dawn reaches the hills above your settlement, your day has already begun. The cold morning air bites against your skin as you join a silent line of workers moving toward the mine entrance. Some walk with the slow exhaustion of men who have spent years underground. Others are new arrivals, still uncertain about what awaits them. Among the crowd are free laborers hoping to earn enough to support their families, convicted criminals serving punishments, prisoners captured during distant wars, and slaves purchased specifically for mining operations. Above ground, they may come from different backgrounds, speak different languages, and possess different futures. Underground, those differences quickly disappear. Once the descent begins, everyone belongs to the mine. Ahead of you stands the entrance itself, a dark opening cut into the side of a mountain. From a distance, it resembles a wound in the earth. Workers carrying oil lamps vanish into the darkness while overseers stand nearby recording attendance and assigning duties. Somewhere below, thousands of feet beneath the surface, other miners are already working. The faint sounds drift upward through the tunnels. Picks strike stone. Wooden carts rumble across rough tracks. Voices echo through unseen chambers. Water drips steadily from ceilings hidden in darkness. The mine never truly sleeps. Every hour lost means valuable or remains trapped inside the mountain, and Rome is always hungry for more. As you step into the tunnel, daylight begins fading behind you. The temperature changes almost immediately. The fresh air of the surface gives way to something heavier. Dust hangs constantly in the atmosphere. The walls close in around you. Oil lamps cast weak circles of light that seem insignificant against the endless darkness surrounding them. With every step deeper underground, the outside world feels more distant. Soon there is no sky, no wind, and no sense of time. There is only stone. For many miners, this underground world becomes more familiar than the surface itself. Some spend so much of their lives here that they begin measuring time not by seasons or years, but by shifts. Days blend together. Faces come and go. The tunnels continue growing longer as new passages are carved deeper into the earth. Yet the dangers remain constant. A loose section of rock can collapse without warning. Toxic gases can gather inside poorly ventilated chambers. Floodwaters can rush into tunnels after heavy rain. Lamps can fail. Support beams can break. Every descent carries risk. Every return to the surface feels like a small victory. Yet despite these dangers, the work continues because the empire depends upon it. Rome's prosperity is built not only by armies and politicians, but by laborers hidden far from public view. Most citizens never think about where their silver coins originate. Merchants exchanging money in busy marketplaces rarely imagine the darkness where that silver first existed. Wealthy aristocrats admiring golden jewelry during lavish banquets never picture the miners who spent years digging through rock to uncover it. The empire celebrates the finished product while forgetting the process that created it. Tonight, we will remember that process. We will descend into some of the largest mining operations in the ancient world. We will witness how Roman engineers transformed entire mountains in pursuit of precious metals. We will meet slaves, laborers, overseers, and skilled workers whose lives revolved around the endless struggle between human determination and unforgiving stone. We will experience the physical exhaustion, constant danger, and harsh realities faced by those whose labor fueled one of history's greatest civilizations. So settle in, relax, and allow the modern world to fade away. The lamps are lit. The overseers are waiting. The mountain stands before you. In a few moments, you will step fully into the darkness and begin a journey beneath the earth itself. A journey into the forgotten world of Rome's miners, where wealth and misery existed side by side, and where every piece of silver carried a hidden cost paid by men history almost forgot. The first thing you notice is the sound. Before you ever touch a pickaxe, before you ever see the veins of silver hidden within the mountain, you hear the mine. It is a constant chorus of labor echoing through the darkness. Metal striking stone, workers shouting warnings through narrow tunnels, wooden carts creaking under the weight of freshly extracted ore, water dripping endlessly from unseen cracks above. The sounds merge into something almost alive, a heartbeat deep beneath the earth that never seems to stop. As you follow the other miners through the twisting passages, the outside world disappears completely. The morning sky, the fresh air, and the warmth of the rising sun are all replaced by cold stone and flickering lamplight. For many men here, this underground world is more familiar than the surface. Some have spent so many years in the mine that they barely remember life before it. You are assigned to a section far below the main entrance. The journey itself takes nearly an hour. The tunnels grow narrower as you descend. In several places, you must bend your back to squeeze through passages barely large enough for a man to pass. The air becomes thick and difficult to breathe. Dust fills your nose and throat with every breath. Around you, workers move silently, conserving their strength for the long hours ahead. Few people speak. Most have already learned that conversation only wastes energy. Eventually, you arrive at your assigned chamber. The space is little more than a rough cavity hacked into solid rock. Several miners are already working there, their bodies covered in sweat despite the cool temperature. Oil lamps cast weak pools of yellow light across the walls, revealing faint streaks of silver or running through the stone. Those shining veins are the reason everyone is here. Somewhere inside this mountain lies wealth that senators will spend, merchants will trade, and emperors will tax. Yet standing in this cramped chamber, surrounded by dust and darkness, it is difficult to think of silver as treasure. It feels more like an enemy. The overseer barks instructions and the work begins. Again and again, your pickaxe rises and falls. Stone cracks. Fragments scatter across the ground. Small pieces of or are collected into baskets and carried away by other workers. The process repeats endlessly. Hour after hour, the rhythm remains the same. Swing, strike, break, collect. At first, your muscles burn from the effort. Your hands ache. Blisters form where the wooden handle rubs against your skin. Sweat mixes with dust until a layer of gray grime covers your face and arms. The experienced miners barely notice. They have endured this routine for years. Their bodies move almost automatically, shaped by endless repetition. As the day continues, you begin noticing the people around you. A prisoner from a distant province works nearby, sentenced to years in the mines for a crime committed long ago. Across the chamber, a slave captured during a military campaign swings his pick in silence. Another miner is a free laborer who voluntarily chose this life because mining pays better than farming. Despite their different backgrounds, they all share the same reality underground. The mine does not care who they were before entering. Stone treats everyone equally. During a brief rest period, you sit against the wall and drink a small amount of water from a clay container. The break lasts only a few minutes. Food is simple and uninspiring. Piece of bread, perhaps some olives if supplies are good. Nothing more. Most workers eat quickly before returning to their tasks. Every moment spent resting is a moment the overseers consider unproductive. Soon the picks are swinging once again. Time becomes difficult to measure underground. Without sunlight, hours lose their meaning. The only indication that the day is progressing comes from the growing exhaustion in your muscles and the gradual consumption of lamp oil. Somewhere above, the sun is crossing the sky. Down here, the darkness remains unchanged. As the shift nears its end, a sudden crack echoes through the tunnel. Every miner freezes. For a terrifying moment, silence fills the chamber. Then another crack follows. Dust falls from the ceiling. Workers glance upward nervously. Cave-ins are among the greatest fears in any Roman mine. Entire sections can collapse without warning, burying men alive beneath tons of rock. Sometimes survivors can be rescued. Often they cannot. The overseer quickly orders everyone to retreat from the affected area. Fortunately, the damage proves minor. A section of loose stone has fallen near an unused passage. No one is injured. Still, the incident serves as a reminder that death is never far away underground. The mountain constantly pushes back against those attempting to carve wealth from its depths. By the time your shift finally ends, your body feels completely drained. The climb back toward the surface seems longer than the descent. Yet as you move upward through the tunnels, something changes. The air grows fresher. A faint breeze brushes against your face. Then far ahead you see it. Daylight. A small patch of pale sky shining at the end of the passage. For a moment, the sight feels almost magical. Emerging from the mine, you blink against the brightness. The sun is already beginning to set beyond the hills. An entire day has passed beneath the earth. Looking around, you see hundreds of other workers leaving the mine as well. Their faces are covered in dust. Their shoulders sag with exhaustion. Some cough continuously from breathing particles that have filled their lungs for years. Others walk with injuries that never fully healed. Yet tomorrow they will return. They have little choice. Rome demands silver, and the mountain still contains more. As evening settles across the landscape, you slowly make your way back to the settlement. The sky glows orange and red above the distant hills. Birds fly freely overhead. Fresh air fills your lungs. For a few precious hours, you are no longer underground. Yet even as darkness falls and the stars appear, you know what awaits you in the morning. Before sunrise, the overseers will gather the workers once again. The lamps will be lit, the tunnels will call, and you will descend back into the depths of the earth, joining countless others in the endless struggle to feed the empire's hunger for wealth. The second morning arrives far sooner than you would like. It feels as though only moments have passed since you left the mine. Yet the overseers are already moving through the settlement, waking workers before dawn. Your muscles ache from the previous day. Every movement reminds you of the labor waiting ahead. Around you, other miners slowly emerge from their dwellings. Nobody speaks much. The first days are often the hardest because the body has not yet accepted its new reality. Experienced workers understand this. They know that eventually the pain becomes familiar. It never truly disappears, but it becomes part of life. As the line of miners forms once again, the mountain looms in the darkness ahead, its silhouette barely visible beneath the fading stars. Somewhere deep inside that mountain, thousands of men are already at work. The Empire never stops demanding more silver, more gold, more iron, and so the miners never truly stop either. Today, your assignment takes you deeper than before. Roman engineers are constantly searching for new veins of ore, and that means extending tunnels farther into untouched sections of the mountain. The descent feels endless. Passage after passage stretches before you, each one darker and narrower than the last. Wooden support beams line parts of the tunnel, but not everywhere. In some places, the rock itself groans quietly above your head. The sound is enough to make any miner nervous. Even the strongest support structures can fail. Entire chambers have disappeared beneath collapses without warning. Veterans tell stories of men trapped underground for days, their voices echoing through the rubble until silence finally replaced them. Nobody likes discussing such stories, yet everyone knows them. When you finally arrive at the new excavation site, the atmosphere feels different. Unlike older sections of the mine, these tunnels are raw and unfinished. Fresh tool marks cover the walls. Loose rock litters the ground. The air feels heavier, almost stale. Ventilation becomes increasingly difficult the deeper miners travel beneath the earth. Roman engineers are clever, but even they struggle against the limitations of the ancient world. There are no mechanical fans, no modern safety systems, only shafts cut toward the surface and the hope that enough fresh air reaches the workers below. Some mines become so poorly ventilated that lamps begin flickering unexpectedly. Experienced miners watch their flames carefully. A weak flame often means trouble. If the lamp struggles to burn, a man's lungs may soon struggle as well. The work begins immediately. Several teams are assigned to follow a narrow silver vein recently discovered inside the rock. At first glance, it seems promising. Thin streaks of bright metal run through the stone like frozen rivers. Overseers are pleased. Rich or means profits. Rich or means recognition from higher officials. Rich or means the mine's managers can justify pushing workers even harder. Pickaxes rise and fall. Dust fills the air. Stone cracks apart piece by piece. Hours pass. The deeper the vein extends, the more difficult extraction becomes. Miners must carve increasingly narrow passages to follow the silver. Soon the tunnel is barely large enough for a man to work comfortably. You find yourself kneeling, swinging the pick in cramped conditions while fragments of rock rain down around you. Sweat drips from your forehead despite the cool underground air. As the day continues, you begin noticing another reality of mining life. Injuries are everywhere. One worker limps because of an accident years earlier. Another has lost several fingers. A third carries scars across his face where shattered stones struck him during a collapse. Nobody talks much about these wounds. They are simply accepted as part of the profession. The mountain takes something from everyone eventually. For some it is their strength. For others, it is their health. For many, it is their life. The only uncertainty is when the price will be paid. During a short break, an older miner sits beside you. His face is almost completely hidden beneath layers of dust and age. He has worked underground for more than 20 years, an astonishing achievement in a profession where many men do not survive half that long. In a quiet voice, he explains that the mine changes people. At first, workers count days. Then they count months. Eventually, they stop counting altogether. The seasons lose meaning when most of life is spent beneath the earth. Rain, sunshine, and storms become distant rumors carried underground by new arrivals. The old miner laughs softly before returning to work, but there is sadness behind the sound. You realize that he is not merely talking about the mine. He is talking about time itself. Later in the afternoon, a group of laborers arrives carrying carts toward the surface. The carts are overloaded with freshly extracted silver-bearing rock. Watching them struggle through the tunnels reveals another hidden side of the operation. Digging the ore is only the beginning. Every piece must be transported, sorted, crushed, washed, and eventually smelted before it becomes usable metal. Hundreds of workers perform tasks that most Roman citizens never imagine. To people spending silver coins in a marketplace, wealth appears simple. Underground, nothing about it is simple. Every coin represents thousands of hours of labor performed by people who will never possess the riches they create. Toward the end of the shift, a messenger arrives carrying news from another section of the mine. Collapse has occurred. Several workers are missing. The announcement spreads quickly through the tunnels. Nobody panics. Such events are tragically common. Yet the mood changes immediately. Conversations stop. Pickaxes strike the rock more slowly. Every miner understands the reality behind the report. The missing workers could be friends, relatives, or familiar faces seen every day. Rescue attempts may already be underway, but underground rescues are dangerous. Sometimes reaching survivors causes additional collapses. Sometimes rescuers become victims themselves. No further information arrives before the shift ends. As you begin the long journey back toward the surface, exhaustion weighs heavily upon your body. The climb feels steeper than yesterday. Around you, hundreds of workers move silently through the tunnels. Nobody has energy for conversation. Then, at last, a faint glow appears ahead. Daylight. The sight remains strangely comforting no matter how many times you see it. Emerging from the mine, you discover that the sun is already sinking toward the horizon. That evening, as darkness settles across the settlement, fires begin appearing outside simple homes and barracks. Workers eat modest meals and prepare for another day. Looking around, you notice something important for the first time. Despite the hardship, despite the danger, despite the exhaustion visible on every face, people still find reasons to laugh. Friends share stories. Families gather together. Children play in the fading light. Life continues even here, in the shadow of the mine. Yet everyone understands an uncomfortable truth. Tomorrow, before sunrise, the mountain will call again. And once more, thousands of men will disappear into the darkness beneath the earth, chasing the silver that keeps an empire rich while slowly consuming the lives of those who uncover it. Several weeks have now passed since your arrival at the mine, and the underground world is beginning to feel disturbingly familiar. The first days were filled with uncertainty, exhaustion, and fear. Every strange sound made you nervous. Every tunnel seemed dangerous. Every shift felt endless. Now, however, your body is slowly adapting. The blisters on your hands have hardened into calluses. Your muscles no longer scream with pain after every hour of labor. You know the routes through the tunnels. You recognize the faces of the workers around you. In some ways, this should feel comforting. Yet it does not. Instead, a troubling realization begins to settle into your mind. You are becoming accustomed to a life that no human being should ever consider normal. The darkness no longer surprises you. The dust no longer shocks you. Even the danger has become routine. And perhaps that is the most frightening part of all. The mine itself continues expanding deeper into the mountain. Roman engineers are determined men. Whenever a vein of or begins running thin, they simply order new tunnels carved into untouched rock. Entire sections of the mountain are transformed into a vast underground maze. Looking at the operation from the surface, few people would suspect what lies beneath their feet. They see hills and forests. They see grazing animals and quiet landscapes. Hidden below exists an entirely different world, one built from sweat and desperation. Thousands of workers spend their lives carving chambers large enough to swallow entire buildings. New shafts descend farther into the earth every year. The deeper the miners travel, the greater the risks become. Yet valuable ore often lies at those depths, and Rome's hunger for precious metals grows stronger with every passing decade. Today your team is assigned to assist in a section where water has become a serious problem. Groundwater constantly seeps into the tunnels through cracks in the rock. Small streams flow across the floor. In some chambers, pools have formed that reach above a man's knees. Water may seem harmless compared to collapsing tunnels, but experienced miners know better. Flooding can destroy entire sections of a mine. A sudden breach may release enormous quantities of water trapped within hidden underground cavities. Entire work crews have vanished beneath floodwaters before anyone could react. Roman engineers fight constantly against this threat. Pumps powered by human labor operate throughout the mine. Workers spend entire shifts removing water from deeper tunnels. It is exhausting work with little reward. Yet without it, mining would become impossible. As you help clear one of the flooded passages, the conditions become miserable. Cold water soaks your clothing. Mud covers the floor. The air feels damp and heavy. Every movement requires extra effort. Around you, dozens of workers labor in near silence. They understand that this work must be completed before valuable sections of the mine can reopen. The Empire does not care whether or extraction is delayed by water. It only cares about results. By midday, your entire body is coated with a mixture of mud, dust, and sweat. Looking at the other miners, you realize that everyone appears equally exhausted. Nobody looks like the wealthy Romans who will eventually benefit from this labor. Nobody resembles the powerful men who issue orders from distant cities. The people performing the hardest work remain the ones receiving the fewest rewards. Later that afternoon, news spreads through the tunnels about a shipment of silver recently delivered to Rome. The quantity is enormous. According to the rumors, imperial officials were delighted by the results. Celebrations may even take place among administrators responsible for overseeing the mining operation. The announcement creates mixed reactions among the workers. Some laugh bitterly. Others simply continue working without comment. A few younger miners seem impressed. Most veterans are not. They have heard such stories before. Success rarely changes conditions underground. Larger profits often mean greater expectations. Greater expectations usually lead to longer hours and increased pressure. Wealth discovered in the mine rarely remains in the mine. It travels upward through the empire, enriching people who may never set foot inside a tunnel. As the shift continues, you are paired with a miner named Lucius. Unlike many workers, he was born near the mining settlement and has spent almost his entire life connected to the operation. His father worked underground. His grandfather did the same. Mining is not merely a profession for him. It is a family tradition stretching back generations. During a brief pause, he points toward the tunnel walls and explains how experienced miners learn to read the mountain. Small cracks reveal hidden weaknesses. Certain colors suggest valuable or nearby. Strange sounds sometimes warn of instability. To outsiders, the walls appear identical. To men like Lucius, they contain information as clear as written words. Listening to him speak, you realize that mining requires more skill than most Romans understand. Survival itself depends upon knowledge accumulated through years of experience. Near the end of the day, that knowledge suddenly proves valuable. A faint cracking sound echoes through the chamber. Most workers barely notice it. Lucius does. His expression changes immediately. Without hesitation, he orders nearby miners to move away from one section of the wall. Some obey reluctantly. Moments later, part of the ceiling collapses. Stone crashes onto the floor where several men had been standing only seconds earlier. Dust fills the air. Lamps flicker. For a terrifying moment, nobody can see clearly. When the dust finally settles, everyone realizes how close disaster came. Had the warning arrived a few moments later, multiple workers might have been killed. The overseer praises Lucius briefly before ordering everyone back to work. The incident is quickly forgotten by management. For the miners, it becomes another reminder that survival often depends more upon luck than strength. When the shift finally ends and you emerge into the evening light, the sky above the settlement appears unusually beautiful. Streaks of orange and gold stretch across the horizon. Fresh air fills your lungs. For a few minutes, you simply stand there enjoying something as simple as open space. Underground, the ceiling is always above your head. The walls are always close. Here, beneath the vast sky, the world feels larger. Yet even this moment carries a strange sadness. You know it is temporary. Tomorrow the mountain will demand your return. Tomorrow the tunnels will swallow thousands of workers once again. Looking back toward the dark entrance cut into the hillside, you begin understanding why so many miners seem older than their years. It is not merely the physical labor. It is the knowledge that every day follows the same pattern. Descend into darkness, fight the mountain, return exhausted, sleep, repeat, and somewhere deep within the earth, the mine continues growing larger, consuming years of human life in exchange for silver that will pass through countless hands before anyone remembers where it came from. By the time summer arrives, the mine has become hotter, busier, and more dangerous than ever. The Roman Empire's appetite for silver seems endless, and every new shipment sent toward the great cities only increases the pressure placed upon the workers below. What began as a difficult job now feels like a constant struggle for survival. The deeper tunnels have grown crowded with miners, slaves, prisoners, engineers, and overseers, all moving through the underground labyrinth like blood flowing through the veins of a living creature. The mine never truly rests. Day and night, men descend into the darkness while others emerge exhausted from their shifts. Looking at the endless stream of workers entering the mountain, it becomes clear that the mine is not simply a workplace. It is an entire world hidden beneath the earth. One morning, rumors spread that a rich silver deposit has been discovered deep within a newly excavated section. Excitement quickly reaches the overseers. Additional workers are assigned to the area. More lamps, tools, and carts are sent underground. The possibility of uncovering a major deposit means wealth beyond imagination for the Empire. Yet for the miners, it usually means something very different. Rich deposits often lie in dangerous locations where the rock is unstable and the tunnels narrow. The mountain rarely gives up its treasures willingly. As your team is reassigned to assist with the excavation, the journey takes you farther underground than ever before. The air becomes noticeably warmer. The tunnels twist through layers of ancient stone untouched for thousands of years. Some passages are so narrow that workers must crawl while carrying tools and lamps. Breathing becomes difficult. Sweat pours from every worker despite the darkness surrounding them. Eventually, you reach the excavation site. The silver vein is impressive, glimmering faintly within the walls whenever lamplight touches it. Even experienced miners stop briefly to admire the sight. Hidden inside the stone is enough silver to create thousands of coins. Somewhere above ground, wealthy citizens will one day spend that money without ever imagining the conditions under which it was extracted. The work begins immediately. Pickaxes strike stone. Chisels carve through narrow gaps. Small fragments of or are loaded into baskets and hauled away. Hours pass in relentless repetition. The deeper workers follow the silver vein, the more unstable the surrounding rock becomes. Cracks spread along sections of the ceiling. Wooden supports are installed as quickly as possible, but everyone understands that timber can only do so much against the immense weight of an entire mountain. Throughout the day, tension quietly grows among the miners. Nobody says much about it, yet everyone notices the warning signs. Then, late in the shift, disaster finally arrives. It begins with a sound unlike anything you have heard before. A deep groan echoes through the rock itself. For a brief moment, every worker freezes. The sound is followed by a violent crack that races through the tunnel like thunder. Someone shouts a warning. Others immediately drop their tools and run. The ceiling begins collapsing. Massive stones crash downward. Dust explodes into the air. Lamps are extinguished. Panic spreads instantly through the darkness. Men stumble over one another trying to escape. Some scream. Others vanish beneath falling debris. The noise is overwhelming. For several terrifying moments, survival becomes the only thing that matters. By sheer luck, you manage to reach a safer section of the tunnel before the collapse fully consumes the chamber behind you. When the rumbling finally stops, silence feels almost unnatural. Dust hangs thick in the air. The surviving workers gather slowly, coughing and trying to understand what happened. Several men are missing. Others are injured. Rescue efforts begin immediately, but everyone knows the truth. Underground collapses rarely end well. Hours pass as teams carefully remove debris. Eventually, a few survivors are pulled from the rubble. Others are not. The mountain has claimed more lives. By the time you emerge from the mine that evening, the sun is already setting beyond the distant hills. News of the collapse has reached the settlement. Families wait anxiously near the entrance. Some receive good news. Others receive none at all. Watching their reactions, you realize that every miner who enters the mountain carries not only his own life, but also the hopes of people waiting above ground. Wives, parents, children, and friends all live with the same uncertainty. Every shift could be the last. Yet despite the tragedy, work resumes the following day. The silver remains underground. The Empire still demands its wealth. New support beams are installed. Damaged tunnels are cleared. Fresh workers take the places of those who died. Life inside the mine continues with a brutal efficiency that feels almost cruel. Standing at the entrance the next morning, preparing once again to descend into the darkness, you finally understand something that experienced miners learned years ago. The greatest danger is not the collapsing rock or the suffocating dust. It is the realization that the mine does not care who lives or dies. Men come and go. Generations pass. The mountain remains. And deep within its stone heart, Rome's endless hunger for silver continues to consume lives one shift at a time. Months have passed since the collapse, but the memory remains fresh in every miner's mind. The mountain has a way of reminding people how small they truly are. For a few days after the disaster, workers spoke quietly, glancing nervously at tunnel ceilings and listening carefully to every unusual sound. Yet, as always, time continued moving forward. New sections of the mine were opened, or shipments continued leaving for Rome. Overseers continued demanding results. Slowly, routine returned. That is one of the strange realities of life in the mines. Even tragedy eventually becomes part of the routine. Men who survive long enough learn how to carry fear without allowing it to stop them. They have no choice. The empire's demand for silver grows larger every year, and somewhere far away, wealthy citizens spend coins without ever considering the sacrifices hidden inside them. One morning, word spreads that a group of imperial inspectors will soon arrive. Such visits are rare, but when they happen, the entire operation changes. Overseers become unusually strict. Engineers review tunnel conditions. Records are examined. Workers are ordered to increase productivity. The mine must appear efficient and profitable. For several days, everyone works harder than usual. Long shifts become even longer. Breaks become shorter. The pressure is visible on every face. It is almost amusing in a bitter sort of way. The inspectors will spend perhaps a few hours underground before returning to comfortable accommodations. The miners, meanwhile, will remain here long after the visitors have departed. Yet the opinions of those inspectors carry enormous weight. A favorable report can bring rewards for management. A negative report can end careers. As preparations continue, you are assigned to assist in transporting or from one of the deepest active sections of the mine. Unlike excavation work, hauling or often receives little attention from outsiders. Yet it is among the most exhausting jobs underground. Heavy carts loaded with rock must be moved through narrow tunnels, across uneven ground, and up steep inclines. The labor is relentless. Every load requires teamwork. Every journey feels longer than the last. Sweat pours from the workers despite the cool underground temperatures. Shoulders ache, hands blister, muscles burn. Yet the carts keep moving because every piece of or represents potential wealth waiting to be extracted. During one particularly difficult shift, you find yourself working alongside a young miner named Marcus. Unlike many laborers, he was not born into mining. His family once owned a small farm in a distant province. Several poor harvests and mounting debts forced them into desperate circumstances. Eventually, Marcus left home seeking work wherever he could find it. The mine was one of the few places willing to accept anyone strong enough to hold a pickaxe. As the two of you push a heavily loaded cart through a cramped tunnel, he speaks about his family. He dreams of saving enough money to buy land one day. It is an ambitious goal, perhaps even unrealistic, but he speaks about it with genuine conviction. Listening to him, you realize that the mine survives partly because of hope. Some workers dream of freedom. Others dream of wealth. Others simply dream of surviving long enough to see another year. Without those hopes, the darkness would become unbearable. A few days later, the Imperial inspectors finally arrive. Their entrance creates an almost theatrical atmosphere. They wear clean clothing. Their hands show no signs of labor. Armed escorts accompany them through the tunnels while overseers eagerly explain production figures and future plans. The inspectors ask questions, examine or samples, and review records. Occasionally they speak to workers, though usually only briefly. Watching the scene unfold feels strange. The visitors seem impressed by the scale of the operation. They admire the engineering. They discuss profits and output, yet they spend little time discussing the human cost. To them, the mine is a source of revenue. To the miners, it is life itself. The difference in perspective could not be clearer. Later that evening, after the inspectors have returned to their quarters, rumors begin circulating through the settlement. According to the overseers, the visit was a success. Production targets may increase in the coming months. Additional investments could expand operations even further. Some managers celebrate. Most miners do not. Increased production usually means increased labor. New tunnels, longer shifts, more risks. Success in the eyes of Rome often translates into hardship underground. The following weeks prove those fears justified. Expansion projects begin almost immediately. New shafts are planned. Additional workers arrive from distant provinces. Some are volunteers seeking wages. Others are prisoners or slaves with little say in the matter. The settlement grows larger. The mine grows deeper. Everywhere you look, evidence of expansion is visible. The mountain itself seems to be under constant assault. Yet despite all the activity, a strange feeling begins developing inside you. The longer you work here, the more you understand that the mine is not merely extracting silver. It is consuming time. Every tunnel represents years of human labor. Every chamber represents countless shifts spent underground. Entire lives disappear into these passages. Looking at the mountain from the surface, a traveler might see only stone. A miner sees something different. He sees years. He sees sacrifices. He sees memories buried beneath layers of rock. One evening, as the sun sets across the hills surrounding the settlement, you sit outside watching workers return from their shifts. Some laugh with friends. Others sit silently, too exhausted to speak. Children run between simple homes while smoke rises from cooking fires. For a brief moment, the settlement almost feels peaceful. Yet beneath that peaceful surface lies a reality everyone understands. Tomorrow the lamps will be lit once again. The tunnels will fill with workers. The mountain will demand more labor. And far away in Rome, citizens will continue spending silver coins without ever knowing the names of the men whose lives made those coins possible. By now, nearly a year has passed since you first entered the mine, and the person who arrived here is slowly disappearing. The mountain changes everyone. It changes how they think, how they move, and even how they measure time. The seasons still pass above ground, but underground they feel distant and unimportant. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter all look the same beneath layers of stone. The darkness never changes. The dust never changes. The endless labor never changes. Many miners eventually stop counting days altogether. Life becomes divided into shifts rather than months. Wake up, descend into the earth, work until exhaustion, return to the surface, sleep, repeat. The routine is so relentless that entire years can seem to vanish without warning. Yet despite the monotony, the mine itself continues evolving. New tunnels are constantly being carved deeper into the mountain. Roman engineers have become increasingly ambitious, pushing workers farther underground in pursuit of richer deposits. Some sections now extend so deep that fresh air struggles to reach them. Lamps burn weakly. The heat becomes unbearable. Breathing feels like inhaling dust mixed with smoke. Experienced miners say the mountain grows more dangerous the deeper men travel. The rock becomes less stable. Underground water becomes more unpredictable. Ventilation becomes more difficult. Yet the richest veins often lie at those depths, and so the descent continues. One morning, your team receives orders to assist in a newly opened section believed to contain a significant silver deposit. The journey takes longer than usual. Passage after passage stretches before you. Wooden supports line the tunnels at regular intervals, but many appear old and worn. Some creak softly as workers pass beneath them. Nobody likes hearing that sound. A support beam can stand for years and then fail in a single moment. As you move deeper into the mountain, the air grows noticeably warmer. Sweat forms before any work even begins. By the time you reach the excavation site, everyone is already exhausted. The chamber itself is enormous, one of the largest you have ever seen. Hundreds of workers are scattered throughout the area, striking stone, hauling ore, repairing supports, and clearing debris. Looking around, it feels less like a mine and more like an underground city built entirely for labor. The silver vein running through the chamber is rich, perhaps one of the richest discovered in years. Overseers are thrilled. Engineers are proud. Management speaks excitedly about future production. For the miners, however, the discovery brings mixed feelings. Rich veins mean opportunity, but they also mean pressure. More leads to higher expectations. Higher expectations lead to longer shifts and greater risks. The empire never seems satisfied. Every success simply creates a demand for even greater success. As work begins, the noise inside the chamber becomes overwhelming. Hundreds of pickaxes strike stone simultaneously. Hammers echo through the darkness. Carts rattle across rough tracks. Supervisors shout instructions. Dust fills the air until visibility begins to fade. After several hours, your throat burns from breathing particles suspended all around you. Many older miners cough constantly. Some struggle to speak without clearing their lungs. Mining illnesses are common, though few understand exactly why. Workers simply know that men who spend decades underground often develop breathing problems that worsen with age. The mountain does not kill everyone quickly. Sometimes it does so slowly. During a brief break, you sit beside a group of veteran miners sharing stories about the past. One man recalls a tunnel that flooded years earlier, trapping dozens of workers. Another remembers an underground fire that filled several chambers with smoke. A third speaks about a silver strike so large that imperial officials personally visited the mine to celebrate the discovery. Listening to them, you realize something unusual. None of their stories focus on wealth. They focus on survival. The men who spend their lives underground rarely care about the fortunes extracted from the mountain. Their victories are measured differently. Returning home after a shift, avoiding injury, seeing another season, watching their children grow older. These achievements matter more than silver ever will. Later that afternoon, an accident reminds everyone how fragile life remains underground. A young laborer hauling or loses his footing while navigating a steep section of tunnel. The loaded cart rolls backward. Several workers leap aside. One man is not fast enough. The cart crashes into him with tremendous force. The tunnel falls silent. Overseers rush forward. Injuries are common in the mine, but that does not make them easier to witness. The injured worker is eventually carried toward the surface. Nobody knows whether he will recover. Within minutes, however, the noise begins again. Pickaxes strike stone. Carts continue moving. Labor resumes. The mine cannot stop for one man. That reality feels cruel, yet everyone accepts it because they must. As evening approaches, your team finally begins the long climb back toward daylight. The journey feels endless. Every muscle aches. Dust covers every inch of your body. Around you, hundreds of workers move silently through the tunnels. Then, far ahead, a faint glow appears. The surface. No matter how many times you see it, the sight never loses its power. Emerging into the evening air feels like returning from another world. The sky stretches endlessly overhead. Fresh wind brushes against your face. For a few moments, simply breathing feels like a luxury. Looking back toward the mountain, you realize something important. Most Romans will never understand where their wealth truly comes from. They will see silver coins, jewelry, and luxury goods. They will admire the prosperity of the empire. They will never see the darkness, the dust, the injuries, or the lives spent beneath the earth. Yet without those sacrifices, much of Rome's greatness would never exist. As the sun slowly sinks beyond the hills and another exhausting day comes to an end, the mine stands silently in the distance, waiting. Tomorrow it will open its mouth once again. Tomorrow thousands of workers will descend into the darkness. And tomorrow, just like every day before it, the mountain will continue exchanging silver for human lives one shift at a time. The second year of your life in the mine begins much like the first ended, with darkness, exhaustion, and the constant feeling that the mountain is slowly taking pieces of you. Yet something has changed. When you first arrived, every tunnel felt unfamiliar and threatening. Now you know the underground labyrinth almost as well as the streets of a city. You recognize the sound of different chambers simply by the way echoes travel through them. You know which tunnels remain cool during summer, which sections flood after heavy rain, and which support beams should never be trusted no matter how often the overseers claim they are safe. This knowledge has value. New workers often look to veterans for guidance because survival underground depends as much on experience as strength. A strong man can die during his first month. A careful man may survive for years. As autumn approaches, the mine enters one of its busiest periods. Demand for silver continues increasing across the empire. New military campaigns require funding. Administrators require revenue. Merchants require currency. Somewhere far away, important men discuss numbers written on scrolls. Down here, those numbers become reality in the form of longer shifts and greater expectations. Entire teams are reassigned to deeper sections of the mountain where engineers believe another rich deposit may exist. The journey to reach those chambers is exhausting. Workers spend nearly as much time traveling through tunnels as they do extracting, or some passages descend so far underground that the air feels completely different. It is warmer, heavier, and strangely still. Lamps burn with weaker flames. Breathing requires more effort. Even conversation becomes tiring. Yet the promise of silver drives everyone forward. One afternoon, while helping clear debris from a newly excavated tunnel, your team discovers evidence of something unexpected. Embedded within the rock are traces of an older mining operation, one abandoned long before your arrival. Broken tools lie buried beneath layers of stone. Rotten fragments of timber remain trapped inside collapsed passages. No one knows exactly how old the tunnels are. Some workers claim they date back generations. Others believe they may have been dug before Roman control reached the region. Whatever the truth, the discovery creates a strange feeling. For a moment, the mind feels haunted by the people who worked here before you. Men who sweated in the same darkness, breathed the same dust, and chased the same silver hidden within the mountain. Their names are forgotten. Their lives are forgotten. Only the tunnels remain. The realization lingers in your mind long after work resumes. Someday, future miners may discover traces of your own labor buried beneath new excavations. They will not know your name either. As weeks pass, another challenge emerges. Food supplies arriving from nearby settlements become less reliable after poor harvests affect the region. Meals grow smaller. Bread becomes harder to obtain. Meat becomes rare. Hungry workers are weaker workers, yet the mine continues demanding the same level of production. Tempers begin rising. Arguments become more common. Minor disagreements quickly escalate into serious confrontations. The stress of underground life leaves little room for patience. One evening, a fight breaks out between two laborers near the settlement. Neither man is naturally violent. Both are simply exhausted, hungry, and frustrated. Such incidents become increasingly common whenever conditions worsen. The mountain affects people physically, but it also changes them mentally. Endless darkness has a way of wearing down even the strongest spirit. During this difficult period, you spend more time speaking with an older miner named Titus. He has survived underground longer than almost anyone currently working in the operation. His hair has turned gray. His face is marked by scars accumulated over decades. Yet his eyes remain sharp. One night, sitting beside a small fire outside the settlement, he shares something he learned many years ago. According to Titus, the greatest mistake a miner can make is believing that silver is the reason people work here. Most newcomers think wealth is the goal. They imagine fortunes hidden inside the mountain. Eventually, they discover the truth. Very few workers become rich. Most remain poor. The real reason people continue is simpler. They work for family. They work for survival. They work because those depending on them have no other choice. Silver may motivate the empire, but responsibility motivates the miners. His words stay with you. Looking around the settlement, you realize how many people fit that description. Fathers supporting children. Mothers trying to keep households together. Laborers hoping to earn enough money to avoid starvation. Even slaves often endure hardship for the sake of companions or loved ones. Beneath the surface, human relationships matter far more than precious metals. Then, as winter begins approaching, the mine faces another serious threat. Heavy rains strike the region for days without stopping. Rivers swell. Roads become difficult to travel. Above ground, people worry about flooding. Underground, the concern is even greater. Water is among the most feared enemies in any mine. Engineers monitor drainage systems constantly. Workers are assigned to inspect vulnerable sections. Every miner understands the danger. If enough water finds its way into the deeper tunnels, entire chambers could disappear beneath floodwaters. One morning, those fears nearly become reality. News spreads rapidly that several lower passages have begun filling with water faster than pumps can remove it. Emergency crews rush underground. Hundreds of workers are temporarily reassigned to help reinforce barriers and clear drainage routes. For nearly 2 days, normal operations slow as everyone focuses on preventing disaster. The effort succeeds, but only narrowly. Looking at the exhausted faces surrounding you afterward, it becomes obvious how fragile the entire operation truly is. Rome may appear powerful from a distance, but even the wealth of an empire can be threatened by something as simple as rain. When the crisis finally passes and normal work resumes, a strange sense of relief spreads throughout the settlement. Not because conditions have improved. They have not. The mine remains dangerous. The work remains exhausting. The future remains uncertain. Yet everyone understands they survived something together. In places like this, shared hardship creates bonds stronger than friendship. It creates a kind of brotherhood built from survival itself. As winter winds begin sweeping across the hills above the mine and another year slowly draws toward its end, you stand outside the entrance one evening watching workers emerge from the darkness. Their faces are tired. Their clothing is covered in dust. Their bodies carry the marks of countless shifts underground. Yet they continue walking forward, day after day, year after year. Looking at them, you finally understand why the Roman Empire values mines so highly. Not because of the silver hidden inside the mountain, but because of the extraordinary endurance of the people willing to descend into that darkness and bring the treasure back to the surface. Winter settles over the region with a cold determination that feels almost personal. Above ground, frost covers the hills surrounding the mine, and icy winds sweep across the settlement before dawn each morning. Yet deep beneath the earth, the seasons hardly matter. The tunnels remain dark. The air remains heavy. The work remains endless. If anything, winter makes life more difficult because the contrast between the surface and the underground world becomes even harsher. Workers leave their homes shivering in the cold darkness before sunrise, only to spend the day laboring in cramped chambers where heat, dust, and humidity cling to every breath. By now, you have survived long enough to be considered an experienced miner. New arrivals frequently look to veterans for advice, and that realization feels strange. It seems impossible that so much time has passed. You still remember your first descent into the mine, the fear you felt when the daylight disappeared behind you, the uncertainty that followed every unfamiliar sound. Now those same fears belong to others. You have become one of the men who explain the rules of survival. One morning, a group of newly arrived laborers joins your section. Some are prisoners sent to the mine as punishment. Others are poor men driven by desperation rather than choice. Looking at them, you recognize the same mixture of anxiety and determination that once filled your own thoughts. Their hands are still soft. Their movements are awkward. They have not yet learned how quickly the mountain punishes mistakes. Throughout the day, you find yourself offering advice whenever possible. Keep your lamp protected. Never ignore strange sounds in the rock. Watch the experienced workers. Conserve your energy. Trust your instincts. None of these lessons appear in official instructions, yet they often mean the difference between life and death. As the weeks pass, another challenge begins affecting the mine. The richest silver deposits in several older sections are starting to run thin. Production remains high, but engineers know the situation cannot continue forever. The mountain has already surrendered enormous wealth, and extracting what remains requires increasingly difficult excavations. New tunnels must be driven deeper into untouched rock. Existing passages must be expanded. More workers are assigned to exploration teams searching for future deposits. The deeper operations become, the more dangerous they grow. Some newly excavated chambers lie so far underground that reaching them requires hours of travel through twisting tunnels. By the time miners arrive, they are already tired. Yet the work must still be done. The Empire's appetite for silver has not diminished simply because the mountain has become harder to exploit. One afternoon, your team is assigned to assist with a major excavation project unlike anything you have previously seen. Roman engineers have developed a plan to remove an enormous section of rock believed to conceal a valuable vein. Hundreds of workers participate. The operation resembles a military campaign more than a mining project. Timber supports are installed. Drainage channels are reinforced. Laborers remove debris continuously while supervisors coordinate activities throughout the chamber. Watching the effort unfold is impressive. It serves as a reminder that Roman mining is not merely manual labor. It is also an engineering achievement. Entire mountains are reshaped through organization, planning, and relentless human effort. Yet, even the most ambitious plans remain vulnerable to the unpredictable nature of the Earth itself. After several days of progress, workers finally break into the targeted section. At first, excitement spreads rapidly. Traces of silver are visible within the newly exposed rock. Overseers speak enthusiastically about future yields. Some miners even allow themselves a brief moment of optimism. Then the true extent of the deposit becomes clear. The vein exists, but it is far smaller than expected. Much of the effort has produced disappointing results. The mood changes immediately. Managers are frustrated. Engineers are embarrassed. Workers are exhausted. The mountain has once again reminded everyone that it cannot be controlled completely. Sometimes months of labor produce little reward. Such disappointments are common in mining, though they rarely appear in official reports sent to Rome. Far away, administrators see only totals and revenues. They do not see failed excavations, wasted effort, or shattered expectations. During this period, you begin noticing changes in yourself as well. The mine no longer feels temporary. It has become the center of your life. The settlement, the workers, the tunnels, and the routines have all become familiar. In a strange way, that familiarity is unsettling. You wonder how many years might pass before you realize your entire life has been spent serving the mountain. Older miners sometimes speak about this fear. They describe waking one day and discovering that decades have vanished. Youth disappeared somewhere underground, exchanged for silver that benefited other people. Looking at the gray-haired veterans who still descend into the tunnels every morning, you begin understanding exactly what they mean. Yet despite these thoughts, moments of humanity continue appearing in unexpected places. One evening, after a particularly exhausting shift, workers gather around several fires near the edge of the settlement. Someone tells stories. Another sings an old song from a distant province. Laughter spreads through the crowd. For a short time, the mine feels far away. The darkness beneath the mountain loses its power. Men who spent the day risking their lives simply enjoy each other's company. Watching the scene, you realize that survival underground depends on more than strength or experience. It also depends on maintaining reasons to continue. Friendship, family, hope, and memory become as important as food or shelter. Without them, the mine would consume far more than bodies. It would consume spirits as well. As winter slowly approaches its end, rumors begin circulating about major changes planned for the operation. New investments may expand the mine further than ever before. Additional workers could arrive in the coming months. Engineers are already discussing ambitious projects designed to reach deeper deposits. Some people view the news with excitement. Others view it with dread. You are not sure how to feel. The expansion promises opportunity, but it also guarantees greater risks. Looking toward the mountain one evening as the setting sun paints the horizon in shades of gold and red, you cannot help wondering how much more the earth still holds hidden within its depths. More importantly, you wonder how many more lives the mountain will demand before those treasures finally run out. The third year of your life in the mine begins without celebration, without ceremony, and almost without notice. That is the nature of mining. Time disappears beneath the earth. Seasons pass overhead while workers continue descending into the darkness each morning as if nothing has changed. Looking around the settlement, you realize that many of the faces you knew when you first arrived are gone. Some men left in search of better opportunities. Others were injured and could no longer work. Some died underground. New workers have taken their places, and the mine continues functioning exactly as before. The mountain does not remember individuals. It only remembers labor. At first, that realization feels depressing. Later, it simply feels true. By now, your reputation as a reliable miner has spread among both workers and overseers. You are often assigned to important excavation projects because management trusts your experience. While this brings a small amount of respect, it also brings greater responsibility. Difficult tasks usually fall to experienced hands. Dangerous sections require veterans. Whenever engineers believe a newly discovered vein may be valuable, they prefer sending men who understand the risks. One morning, you receive orders to join an exploration team investigating a deep section of the mine where unusual traces of silver have been discovered. The assignment immediately attracts attention. Exploration work carries a certain prestige, but it is also among the most dangerous jobs underground. Existing tunnels offer at least some familiarity. New territory offers none. As your group descends deeper into the mountain than ever before, the atmosphere becomes increasingly oppressive. The air feels warmer with every level. Water drips constantly from unseen cracks. The walls seem to close in around you. Even experienced miners speak less than usual. Everyone understands that these depths remain largely unknown. The mountain still hides many secrets. After hours of travel, the team reaches the area marked by previous surveyors. At first glance, the chamber appears ordinary. Rough stone walls surround a narrow excavation site illuminated by scattered oil lamps. Yet closer inspection reveals faint streaks of silver running through the rock. Excitement spreads cautiously among the workers. If the vein proves rich enough, it could justify major expansion. Engineers begin taking measurements while miners prepare equipment. For several days, progress is slow but promising. More silver appears. The deposit seems larger than expected. Overseers become increasingly optimistic. Rumors spread throughout the settlement that a major discovery may be underway. Yet the deeper the excavation advances, the more unstable the surrounding rock becomes. Small cracks begin appearing along tunnel walls. Support beams groan beneath growing pressure. Experienced workers exchange nervous glances. Everyone remembers previous collapses. Everyone knows that rich deposits often come with hidden dangers. One afternoon, while removing debris from the excavation site, you notice something unusual. The stone surrounding part of the vein appears fractured in strange ways. The pattern reminds you of warning signs observed before earlier cave-ins. Several other miners notice the same thing. Concerns are reported to supervisors. Engineers inspect the area. After a brief discussion, management decides work should continue. Reinforcements are added, but production remains the priority. Such decisions are common in mining. Risk and profit constantly compete against one another. Usually profit wins. For several days, nothing happens. The excavation expands. More ore is extracted. Confidence returns. Then, without warning, the mountain reminds everyone who truly controls the situation. A violent tremor shakes the chamber. Dust falls from above. Workers freeze. A deep cracking sound echoes through the rock. It lasts only seconds, but every miner recognizes it immediately. The mountain is moving. Orders to evacuate spread through the tunnel. Men drop tools and rush towards safer passages. Unlike previous collapses, this one does not happen instantly. The mountain groans repeatedly as pressure shifts through the surrounding stone. Massive support beams bend beneath forces they were never designed to withstand. Everyone moves as quickly as possible. Then part of the chamber gives way. The collapse is enormous. Stone crashes downward with deafening force. Dust erupts into the air like a storm. The ground itself seems to shake. Fortunately, most workers manage to escape before the worst of the collapse occurs. Even so, several men are trapped behind tons of debris. Rescue efforts begin immediately. For nearly 2 days, teams work without rest attempting to reach survivors. The entire settlement waits anxiously for news. Some families remain near the mine entrance day and night. Everyone understands the grim reality. The longer rescuers take, the lower the chances become. Yet miracles occasionally happen underground. Workers have survived in trap chambers before. Hope persists even when logic suggests otherwise. Eventually, rescuers succeed in reaching part of the collapsed area. A handful of survivors are found, exhausted, injured, but alive. The celebration that follows is unlike anything you have seen in years. For once, the mine has given something back instead of taking. Not everyone is rescued, however. Several workers remain missing. Their bodies are never recovered. The mountain keeps them. Life slowly returns to normal, but the incident leaves a lasting impact throughout the settlement. People speak more quietly for a while. Overseers become temporarily cautious. Engineers review safety procedures. Yet everyone knows these changes will not last forever. The Empire still demands silver. Production targets still exist. Sooner or later, the pressure will return. As spring begins arriving across the hills above the mine, you find yourself thinking more often about the future. When you first arrived, survival occupied every thought. Now larger questions begin emerging. How many years can a man spend underground before the mine takes too much from him? How many workers actually escape this life? Looking around, the answer seems uncertain. Some veterans have spent decades here. Others disappeared long ago. Yet despite the uncertainty, the work continues. Every morning the lamps are lit. Every morning workers descend into the darkness. Every morning the mountain waits patiently, guarding its remaining treasures while demanding payment in sweat, strength, and time. And with each passing year, you understand more clearly that the silver hidden beneath the earth is not the mine's most valuable resource. The most valuable resource is the lives of the people willing to risk everything to reach it. By the 4th year, the mine no longer feels like a place where you work. It feels like a force that shapes every part of your existence. The routines have become so familiar that you sometimes find yourself moving through the tunnels almost automatically. Your feet know every turn. Your hands know every tool. Your body reacts to danger before your mind fully recognizes it. New workers still arrive with fear in their eyes, staring nervously into the darkness before their first descent. Watching them now feels strange because you can barely remember what life was like before the mine became normal. Yet every so often, a moment occurs that reminds you just how unnatural this life truly is. One such moment arrives during a rare day away from work. Heavy storms force the temporary closure of several underground sections, giving workers unexpected time above ground. For many miners, the break feels almost uncomfortable. Some spend the day repairing homes or visiting family. Others simply rest. You decide to walk beyond the settlement and climb a nearby hill overlooking the valley. Standing there, far from the noise of pickaxes and or carts, you are struck by how beautiful the world can be. Birds circle overhead. Wind moves through tall grass. Sunlight stretches across distant forests and rivers. For a long moment, you simply stand there and watch. It occurs to you that some miners spend so much time underground that they begin forgetting what ordinary life feels like. The realization lingers in your thoughts long after you return. A few days later, work resumes as if the interruption never happened. The mine has little patience for reflection. Production must continue. New surveys suggest valuable deposits may exist beneath sections of the mountain that have never been explored. Engineers begin planning one of the most ambitious expansions in the mine's history. Entire crews are reassigned. Additional laborers arrive from distant provinces. Supplies flow steadily into the settlement. Everywhere you look, preparations are underway. The scale of the project is staggering. Roman engineers intend to drive tunnels deeper than ever before, reaching rock formations untouched since the beginning of time. Some workers view the plan with excitement. Others view it with dread. The deeper the mine grows, the greater the risks become. Yet nobody expects the expansion to stop. Rome's demand for silver remains endless. During the early stages of excavation, your team is assigned to help establish a new tunnel network. Unlike traditional mining work, this phase involves creating infrastructure rather than extracting ore. Support beams must be installed. Drainage systems must be planned. Ventilation shafts must be connected to existing passages. The work is difficult, but it offers a fascinating glimpse into the complexity of Roman engineering. Most citizens imagine mining as little more than men striking rock with tools. The reality is far more sophisticated. Entire underground systems must function together. A single mistake can endanger hundreds of lives. Watching engineers coordinate the operation reveals how much knowledge is hidden beneath the surface of the empire. Yet no amount of planning can eliminate uncertainty. One afternoon, while helping reinforce a newly opened chamber, your group encounters a problem unlike anything previously experienced. The rock formation ahead proves unusually unstable. Small collapses occur repeatedly despite reinforcement efforts. Engineers debate possible solutions. Overseers grow impatient as delays increase. Every lost day means lost revenue. Eventually, management orders work to continue under strict supervision. Most miners dislike the decision immediately. The mountain has a way of warning people before disaster strikes. Experienced workers know the signs. Strange sounds, unexpected cracks, falling dust. The new chamber displays all of them. Even so, labor continues. For several tense days, everyone works cautiously. Then something unexpected happens. Instead of collapsing, the unstable rock reveals a hidden cavity. The discovery sends excitement racing through the mine. Exploratory teams enter carefully. What they find astonishes everyone. Beyond the chamber lies one of the largest natural caverns ever encountered in the operation. The space is enormous, stretching far beyond the reach of lamplight. Underground pools reflect flickering flames. Massive stone formations rise from the darkness like ancient monuments. For a brief moment, the miners forget about silver entirely. The cavern feels almost sacred. It is a hidden world untouched by human hands for countless ages. Standing inside it, surrounded by silence and darkness older than Rome itself, you experience something rare underground: wonder. The feeling does not last. Soon engineers begin discussing practical uses for the discovery. New tunnels can connect through the cavern. Additional excavations become possible. The mountain's hidden beauty quickly becomes another opportunity for expansion. Yet the memory remains with you. In a life dominated by labor and survival, moments of wonder are precious. They remind you that the world contains more than work. As the months pass, the mine grows larger than ever before. New chambers open. New workers arrive. Production increases. Official reports celebrate the operation's success. From Rome's perspective, everything appears excellent. Revenue rises. Silver shipments increase. Administrators praise the efficiency of the mine. Underground, however, the reality feels different. More workers mean more accidents. Deeper tunnels mean greater dangers. Larger operations create new problems alongside new opportunities. Success always carries a price. The mountain simply demands payment in different ways. One evening, after an especially long shift, you sit outside the settlement watching the sun disappear beyond the horizon. Nearby, workers share meals and stories around small fires. The scene feels familiar, yet something has changed. You realize that many of the younger miners now look at you the same way you once looked at the veterans. They ask questions. They seek advice. They assume you understand things they do not. Perhaps they are right. Years underground have taught lessons impossible to learn elsewhere. You understand the mountain now. Not completely, because nobody ever truly understands it, but enough to recognize its rhythms. Enough to respect its power. Enough to know that survival is never guaranteed. As darkness settles across the valley and the first stars appear overhead, you find yourself wondering how many more years the mine will claim from your life. The mountain remains as patient as ever. It has existed long before Rome and will remain long after the empire itself is gone. For now, however, it continues feeding Rome's hunger for wealth. One tunnel, one worker, and one exhausting day at a time. The fifth year arrives quietly, almost unnoticed. There is no celebration marking the milestone, no acknowledgement from overseers, and no reward for endurance. The mine does not care how long a man has survived within its depths. It only cares whether he can continue working. Yet for you, the passage of time has become impossible to ignore. When you arrived, many of the older miners seemed ancient, their faces worn by years of labor and hardship. Now, looking into pools of still water that gather inside the tunnels, you occasionally catch your own reflection and see the same signs appearing. Lines mark your face. Your shoulders carry a permanent heaviness. Your hands have become rough and scarred from countless hours gripping tools. The mountain has left its mark upon you, just as it has upon every miner who remained long enough. By now, you understand something that newcomers rarely realize. The greatest danger underground is not a collapse, a flood, or a falling cart. Those dangers are immediate and obvious. The greater danger is the slow erosion of a man's life. One shift becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 year. Before long, entire portions of life vanish into darkness without notice. Many miners dream of leaving someday, Very few actually do. One morning, word spreads throughout the settlement that an important imperial administrator is expected to visit the operation. Such visits always create excitement among management and indifference among workers. The officials arrive wearing clean clothing and polished boots untouched by dust. They tour selected sections of the mine while engineers proudly explain recent expansions. Reports are presented. Production figures are discussed. Future goals are outlined. Everything appears impressive. The visitors admire the scale of the tunnels and the quantity of silver extracted from the mountain. Yet, as always, they spend little time examining the lives of the people responsible for that success. Watching the scene unfold, you cannot help noticing the contrast. The administrator sees numbers. The miners see realities hidden behind those numbers. Every successful report represents years of labor. Every increase in production represents additional strain placed upon workers already operating near their limits. Yet such truths rarely appear on official scrolls. Later that month, a particularly difficult assignment takes your team into one of the deepest active sections of the mine. Reaching the area requires nearly 2 hours of travel through winding passages. By the time work begins, everyone is already tired. The chamber itself feels oppressive. Heat hangs heavily in the air. Ventilation remains poor despite recent improvements. Lamps struggle against the darkness. Even experienced workers find the conditions exhausting. Yet the silver deposit located there is among the richest discovered in years. The Empire's attention has become focused upon this section. Production targets increase accordingly. Every shift feels longer than the one before. Every cart of or is expected to be heavier. Every worker is expected to give more. During one particularly exhausting day, a young miner named Gaius collapses from exhaustion while hauling equipment. The incident shocks nobody. Similar events occur regularly. Yet something about it affects you differently. Perhaps it is because Gaius reminds you of yourself when you first arrived. Perhaps it is because you have witnessed too many similar moments over the years. Whatever the reason, watching him struggle to stand again leaves a lasting impression. The mine rarely destroys people all at once. More often, it wears them down piece by piece. Strength fades, health declines, dreams become smaller. The process happens so gradually that many do not notice until years have passed. As summer approaches, another problem emerges. Several sections of the mine begin producing less silver than expected. Engineers grow concerned. Managers become impatient. New exploration projects are launched in hopes of discovering additional deposits. Once again, workers are sent deeper into unexplored territory. The pattern feels familiar. Whenever the mountain gives less, Rome demands more. The solution is always the same. Dig deeper, expand farther, work harder. Yet even the most ambitious plans cannot change a simple reality. The mountain's resources are not infinite. Every year requires greater effort to achieve the same results. One evening, after returning from a particularly difficult shift, you sit beside a fire with several veteran miners. Conversation drifts toward the future. One man speaks about retiring and purchasing a small farm. Another dreams of opening a workshop in a nearby town. A third simply hopes to live long enough to see his children become adults. Listening to them, you notice something interesting. Nobody talks about becoming wealthy. Nobody talks about silver. After years underground, priorities change. Freedom becomes more valuable than riches. Time becomes more valuable than money. Simple things gain importance. Fresh air, sunlight, family, rest. The mine teaches many lessons, but perhaps the most important is learning what truly matters. As autumn arrives once more, the settlement feels different than it once did. New buildings have appeared. More workers have arrived. Children born during your early years here are now old enough to run through the streets and play near the edge of the settlement. Life continues moving forward, even in a place dominated by hardship. Watching those children laugh, you find yourself wondering what future awaits them. Some will likely enter the mine one day. Others may leave and seek opportunities elsewhere. For a moment, you hope they find lives beneath open skies rather than underground ceilings. Yet the Empire has a way of drawing people toward its industries, especially where work is available. As the year begins drawing toward its end, you realize that your relationship with the mountain has changed. When you first arrived, you viewed it as an enemy. Later, you viewed it as a workplace. Now it feels almost like a living presence, ancient, patient, and indifferent. It does not hate the miners. It does not care about them either. It simply exists. Men arrive. Men leave. Generations pass. The mountain remains. Standing outside the entrance one evening as the setting sun bathes the valley in golden light, you watch hundreds of workers emerge from the darkness. Their faces are tired. Their bodies ache. Yet they continue forward, just as countless miners before them did. Looking at the endless line of laborers, you begin understanding something that few people outside the mine ever realize. The true wealth of Rome was never hidden inside the mountain. The true wealth was the determination of the people willing to descend into its depths day after day, sacrificing years of their lives so that an empire could prosper above them. The final years arrive more quickly than you ever imagined. Looking back, it is difficult to understand where the time went. The days underground once felt endless, yet the years seem to have vanished in a single breath. The mine remains as active as ever. New tunnels continue stretching into the depths of the mountain. Fresh workers continue arriving from across the empire. Silver continues flowing toward distant cities. To Rome, little has changed. The empire still sees the mine as a source of wealth. Administrators still record production figures. Merchants still exchange silver coins in crowded marketplaces. Yet, for the people who spent their lives underground, the story feels very different. The mine has never simply been a source of metal. It has been a world of its own, a hidden society buried beneath the earth where generations of workers have sacrificed their strength, health, and years in exchange for survival. As you walk through the settlement one evening, you notice how much has changed since your arrival. Buildings that once seemed new now show signs of age. Children who played beside the roads have become workers themselves. Some of the oldest miners are gone, their names remembered only by friends and family. Others remain, moving more slowly than before but still descending into the darkness each morning. The cycle continues exactly as it always has. New lives replace old ones. New hands grip the same tools. New faces disappear into the same tunnels. The mountain endures while everything around it changes. One day, while working in a familiar chamber deep underground, you pause for a moment and look around. The walls are covered with thousands of tool marks left by countless workers over many decades. Every scar in the stone represents effort. Every tunnel represents years of labor. Every chamber represents human determination fighting against solid rock. Suddenly, you realize that the mine itself is a monument, not to emperors or generals, but to ordinary people. History will remember Rome's rulers. It will remember battles and conquests. Few records will mention the miners who made much of that prosperity possible. Yet without them, much of the empire's wealth would never have existed. The silver hidden beneath the mountain would have remained trapped forever. As the months pass, your thoughts increasingly drift toward life beyond the mine. Not because conditions have improved, but because you have finally begun understanding something many workers learned too late. No amount of silver is worth an entire lifetime. The mountain always asks for more effort, more years, more sacrifice. If allowed, it will consume every day a man possesses. Some workers never escape that reality. They spend their entire lives underground until age, injury, or illness finally ends their labor. Others leave before the mine takes everything. The difference often comes down to opportunity, luck, or timing. One autumn evening, after completing another exhausting shift, you emerge from the mine just as the sun is setting. The sky glows with shades of orange, gold, and deep crimson. For several minutes, nobody speaks. Hundreds of workers simply stand there, looking toward the horizon. It is an ordinary sunset, yet after spending the day beneath the earth, it feels extraordinary. Fresh air fills your lungs. Wind brushes across your face. The world seems impossibly vast compared to the narrow tunnels below. In that moment, you understand why miners never stop appreciating simple things. Sunlight, open skies, a cool breeze. These become treasures far greater than silver. As darkness slowly spreads across the valley, lamps begin appearing throughout the settlement. Families gather for evening meals. Children laugh near the roads. Workers share stories beside small fires. Life continues. Looking around, you realize that despite everything the mine has taken, it has never completely defeated the people living here. They continue finding reasons to smile. They continue building friendships, raising families, and creating moments of happiness in a difficult world. The mountain may control their labor, but it cannot entirely control their spirits. And so our journey comes to an end, not with a grand discovery or a fortune uncovered beneath the earth, but with a deeper understanding of the lives hidden behind Rome's wealth. The silver coins that passed through imperial markets carried invisible stories within them. Stories of exhausted workers, dangerous tunnels, collapsing chambers, flooded passages, endless shifts, and years spent far from sunlight. Most Roman citizens never thought about those stories. Most never knew they existed, yet they were real. Every piece of silver carried a human cost. Every treasure extracted from the mountain required sacrifice. Long after the empire itself faded into history, the memory of those forgotten workers deserves to remain. For while emperors ruled Rome and generals expanded its borders, it was ordinary people, miners among them, who carried much of the empire upon their shoulders. And somewhere deep beneath the earth, hidden within abandoned tunnels and silent chambers, the mountain still holds the echoes of their labor, waiting in the darkness where history rarely looks.